From the Evening Standard in London, I'm David Marsland, and this is The Leader. It's a great feeling getting the exam results you hoped for, and in London a lot of students have done very well indeed, like these ones at Brampton Manor Academy in East Ham.
I got 3 A's in all my subjects, so I'm really happy about that. I got into the university I wanted.
I got 3 A stars. It feels really good. I didn't expect it, so honestly I'm just really grateful.
It's a success being repeated around England, Wales and Northern Ireland. 44.8% got A or an A star, a record high following another year of COVID disruption. There were no exams, only teacher assessments. And Education Secretary Gavin Williamson told BBC Breakfast it was a school year like no other.
You know, it's very difficult to compare the experience that students have been through this year to the experience that students have had in many previous years before. Next year we very much hope to be taking that important step of returning back to examinations.
Well, our education editor Anna Davis is here. And Anna, we're looking at an incredible year for a lot of students, but particularly in London this year.
You're right, yes. It's a good day for a lot of teenagers getting their A-level results today, with London doing the best in the country. Obviously, it's a very unusual year because exams were cancelled and these results are based on teacher assessments. So 44.8% of all A-levels were given the top grade of A or A star. And in London, that was 47.9% of grades. So we did better than anywhere else.
But because these have been done by these teacher assessments, that has led to some suggesting perhaps that students had it a little bit easy this year.
Yes, I think there's always talk of grade inflation every year that I've covered exam results. But this year is like no other. They are so much higher than a normal year or a pre-pandemic year. So they're about 75% higher than they were in 2019 when exams were last held. However, head teachers are very keen to point out that these students have been through a massive ordeal. They've missed loads of classes. A lot of them were sent home without laptops. They've had to try and learn on their own. They've been away from friends. They've missed out large chunks of their course. It's hard to see how else grades could have been calculated after last year's catastrophe with the algorithm, which was an attempt to try and sort of keep a lid on grade inflation. That failed. So it's hard to see really this year what other way there is of doing it.
It's also led to, I believe, a record number of students getting their first choice university. But having so many people so successful in their exams this year, is that going to cause a problem for other university places?
Yeah, it's good for the students who've got the offers, who've got the grades they needed for their offers. But it does mean that universities that would normally have spaces through clearing to students who are looking for places, they don't have them. They've filled up on these top grade students who've done enormously well. So there are actually fewer places in clearing for the students who've missed out even by just one grade. There's also the slight concern that universities will have to honour those places that they've offered to students, and some may have over-offered and be faced with the prospect of many more students now qualifying for those places. And the government's already lifted the cap for medical and dentistry degrees, sort of in advance of this results day. And so I think a lot of universities are going to have to take more students than normal this year.
And drilling down into the actual figures, you've been reporting today, Anna, that girls have pulled ahead of boys, 46.9% of their grades given A or A star, compared with 42.1% for boys. Do we know why or how that's happened?
No, the exam board say it's too early to tell, but there are suggestions that scrapping exams has actually been harder on boys because sort of anecdotally, boys have tended to sort of pull it out of the bag at exam time rather than sort of doing long-term coursework that girls are perhaps better at. That's anecdotal, but the OCR exam board did discuss this in press briefing this morning, and they're going to look into it. So they are saying that there are reports that the pandemic has hit students differently, not just on their education, but also on their mental health. And it maybe has hit boys worse than girls. They just say there's a variety of reasons, and they're going to analyse it.
So overall, this virus has now caused disruption for a couple of years in our education system. But those pupils who have got these grades today, I mean, they really should be very proud of what they've done.
I think they should be. There will always be people saying they're meaningless, but teachers are professionals, and they were asked to judge work that they had learnt during the pandemic. So it's slightly different to last year when they were asked to predict how a student would fare in an exam if they'd taken one. But teachers are professionals. They have had to show evidence for these grades that they've given. So there have been some checks. I think at 15% of schools have sort of been queried, and about 1% of grades changed. But it has been very different to an exam year.
And you can read more from Anna at standard.co.uk. That's the leader. We're back on Monday at 4 p.m.